I'm starting a new series using the drag bit on the CNC. Now I took one of the Fox Alien CNC machines and set it up as a dedicated machine to use the drag bits. Whether you're using the drag bit to do a very detailed logo such as this, or something like this with larger letters, the detail is absolutely amazing. It is crisp, sharp, easy to set up, and easy to use. Now for this, I unplugged the spindle completely. You do not have this spindle running. I could either do it this way or actually go into the G-code and change and turn off the M3 and the M5. M3 turns on the spindle, M5 turns it off. But rather than going into the G-code, I just simply unplugged it. I'm using the glue and the tape method to be able to hold this auxiliary wasteboard down. I don't want to have any clamps to get in the way, and I want this basically semi-permanent. And the glue and the tape method is one of the best ways to do that. Over the years, I've used the glue and tape method almost exclusively to be able to secure the different projects. Now, I've actually changed my philosophy a little bit. With the price of the blue tape going up to basically $10 a roll, that's just more than what I want to be able to spend on just holding down a single project for a job. So what I've decided to do on applications such as this, where the glue and the tape method can be a semi-permanent solution, for the rest of the applications, I'll be using the clamps more and more. And I'm going to be using some additional different types of hold-down methods other than the glue and the tape method. I'm using the Starbond medium glue to be able to secure this down with the blue tape. Now I do have a link in the description below should you want to take a look and purchase some of the Starbond glue. If you use the glue and tape method, remember it only takes just a very small thin bead of glue on each of the pieces of tape. Now I'm using 4 pieces of tape, and that's way more than what you actually need. When you apply the accelerator, again, it only takes a very small amount. Far too often, I see people using way too much of the CA glue and way too much of the accelerator. It only takes a very small amount. I actually put a mark on the wasteboard exactly where I wanted to put this auxiliary board. Just line it up on that line that I had indicated on the wasteboard and then press it down. Next, I'm ready to turn the machine on and Z the machine. I'm going to be able to use the bottom left-hand corner as my XY0 position. And I have a pencil line actually drawn on my auxiliary wasteboard to indicate that far left position on the X-axis. At this point, this is my 0, 0 position. And that's right at the edge of the board and right on that pencil line. All of my measurements for the pockets that I'm going to put on here for my templates is going to be in reference to this 0, 0 home position. Now this is a close-up look at the drag bit. Now it has a little Allen screw in the bottom of it. It has a spring inside so that this pin can move up and down, and it's a 1/4 inch shank. Now I picked this one up off of the Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description below. Now this particular one has a 90-degree tip on it. The good thing is you can buy replacement parts and be able to keep the same shank, and that's what I did. I also purchased the 120-degree tip. Not only do you get the tip, but you get a replacement spring and a new Allen screw. Here's a close-up look at that 120-degree tip. What makes the drag bit unique and actually work is the fact that it has a diamond tip right on the point of the bit itself. The bit that I'm going to use to cut the pockets into the auxiliary wasteboard is a straight bit, and it's 1/8 inch in diameter. So this is going to be a single-sided, and the material that I have is 16 inches wide, 9 inches on the y-axis, and it's 3/4 of an inch thick. We are going to use the material surface, and the bottom left-hand corner is going to be the XY datum position, and that will take care of it. I do not need this. I can have this at the standard, and we'll hit OK. So that's the working area that I have. Now I have a scrap piece of brass. That's one where I had tested earlier, some time ago, but I still want to be able to get the size of this. So if I use the calipers, and since I'm working in inches, that is actually 2.007. And as far as the width of this, that's right at 4 inches. So how do I set up these pockets? Well, it's very, very simple and very basic. This first pocket was for the brass plate. Now that plate was 4 inches by 2 inches, and I said I was going to allow 20 thousandths. So if I come over here and take a look at the actual object, you can see that on my x-axis is 4.02, and on the y-axis I put in 2.02 to be able to create this. Now the location is also very important. Why did I pick this location? It's the center point that is most important to me. So if I come over and look at this icon and I set this up at the absolute and I put that in the center, you can see that the position is 3 inches on the x-axis, 7 inches on the y. Why is that important? Because it's referenced off the bottom left-hand corner. If I come up 7 inches on the y-axis and over 3 inches on the x-axis, that puts me dead center on this pocket. That becomes important when I set up and design the different artwork that's going to go into these various plates. By knowing the exact center of each one of these, it makes it where I can design using this center as my reference. When I come over here to the test engrave and I open up this file, this is what I have. And you can see that my center is in this right here. So now I can do any artwork in that particular area and know that it's going to fit into this pocket. Now I also have a little dog tag here, and I want to measure this. And that's 1.958 of an inch. And going on this axis is 1.76. It's kind of an odd size, 1.17. It's kind of an odd size, but I'm going to go ahead and set that up also. So for this pocket, it was actually kind of an odd shaped little dog tag. This is 1.978, and that's given me the allowance of the 20 thousandths. And same thing on this. It was 1.205, and that allowed for my 20 thousandths. Now I also have a bunch of these little small cards that are very, very flimsy, but I decided to go ahead and add that in also. And I did it the exact same way. I have this Army logo that I've used for a number of different projects, from laser engraving to being able to cut it out using the V-bits to be able to make the different plaques. Well, I want to be able to see if I can take this same exact file and put it down onto this little dog tag. And there's the dog tag there in the center, and this is the artwork that I have to work with. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of reduce it down in size, and I'm going to keep this XY link in place. And I'm going to put this down to about 1 inch, and we'll hit apply because that will change everything. And I'm going to take and move it up into this area. And I think the first thing I want to do and rotate this 90 degrees. And now I think that actually is going to look quite nice. Remember, there's a hole here, and I need to measure exactly where that hole is going to be. And I think I'm going to put the word veteran right underneath here. Now if I zoom in real close, I can see just a little bit of distortion here, and I want to fix that before I actually engrave it, because that will show up. So I'm going to come over here to the edit node, and we're going to highlight this, and you can see all this garbage here. And I think I'm just going to cut these out and delete that point. I can delete this one, delete that point. So now this is a nice straight line, and that's what I want. So I'm going to take a few minutes and go through on the edit nodes and clean up this and just make it a little bit sharper. So after just a couple minutes, I've cleaned up all of the different points on the star, and that looks a whole lot better. If you want to just take a look at the individual line, you can see that there's no extra nodes anywhere in the star now, and that is going to be able to engrave much better. It's going to, if I use the V-bits or any type of tooling, this is going to work much better, having a simplified star. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at these. The only thing I could do is probably get rid of this in the center here. And if I zoom in, I can click on it and delete that. And that will clean it up a little bit. So let's take a look at it now. The outer one's clear. That looks good. That will look good. That looks good. Same thing over here. That looks good. I think that's going to look better. And then I'm going to slide this up to here. All right, we're going to come over now and set the toolpath, and I'm just going to do the quick engraving toolpath. And this is going to be my diamond drag bit. Now I set this up with two different toolpaths. One is going to show the fill around the letters itself, and then I have this thin line that's going to be just a outline. Now this is probably more detailed than what I need, but I want to be able to try and just see what it looks like. And when you click on this, I think it actually is going to look really good. So at this point, I'm going to save the two toolpaths over to my thumb drive, and we'll be ready to go out into the shop and engrave this and see what it looks like on the dog tag. Yeah, I'm going through my checklist. I've unlocked the machine. I have homed the machine. I've checked for any stalling or misalignment. I've secured the material. I'm using the glue and tape method for this one. And I've verified there are no clamps on this one, so that'll be good. Now we're going to jog over and zero this out, which I've actually done. If you look over here, this is 0 and 0, but I have not Z'd the Z-axis. So this is done. We have the very V-bit correct. I'm not using any of the bits. So now I'm going to come up here and Z this probe. Now this is a different probe than what I typically use. The thickness of this probe is actually 15.04, so I'll put that into the software. So we'll hit probe, and we'll put in here 15.04. Now then, we'll need to move the machine over and probe this. Yeah, I raised up the Z-axis too far, and you can see there where it says unlock the alarm, and you have this message right here. So what was the problem that caused that? Well, right here is the limit switch, and I tripped that limit switch. So the only thing that I need to be able to do is just clear the alarm and move it down. So I'll hit clear the alarm, and then I'll move this down 1 millimeter. And that's all it took, because it did not lock again. So I'm now clear. So I now have the probe ready to be able to do the Z-axis. I'll come over here, hit probe, and we've confirmed this thickness at 15.04. We'll confirm that, and we'll hit probe. An alternative way to be able to set the Z height is using the paper. Just slowly move down the Z-axis until the paper sticks. There it is, that drags. So that is going to be the Z0 position. So I'll come over here now and just set that as 0. So now I'm back at the XY 0 position, and I have the machine Z at 8 millimeters, so it is raised up above. So now I can check that off of the checklist. So at this point, the Z probe is done. I've secured the puck, it's out of the way. And I've verified now that we have the XY0 position, and everything has been verified and confirmed. Okay, so now I can just load the G-code file. And we'll scroll down to the engraving drag bit files, and there is my file right there. We'll open it up and we can verify that that is the file that we're going to be cutting. So we've opened, we've confirmed that's the toolpath, and we've got that done. So now I need to connect my dust collection and get the dust collection turned on. Okay, the dust collection is on. I'm going to go ahead and turn the vacuum on now, and then we'll be ready to run the job. I went into a lot of detail on using the checklist and stepping through the process of using the open build controller, because this is one of the most often questions that I get. So I decided to just take the opportunity to go into a lot of detail and show you specifically how to do it. Well, the pockets are almost completely cut out now. Now, could I have used a 1/4 inch bit for this? Yeah, sure could. But I decided to use the 1/8 inch bit instead. Really for no other reason other than that was the first bit that I had grabbed. So keep that in mind. You do have the option to choose whichever bit that you want. Now that the pockets are completely cut out, I want to test and make sure that these blanks will actually fit into the pockets. Okay, the first blank I'm going to put in is the brass one, and it snaps into position quite nicely. So that will work good, and it's just about flush with the surface, so I like that. And then a little thin anodized aluminum card fits in good. Now keep in mind, that's a very, very thin card. There's the dog tag and the little circle for the jewelry. Now also marked on here exactly where the center is. So this is actually 2 inches over and 5 inches up, and that'll give me the center point. And this one for the center of this circle is 4 inches on the x-axis, 5 inches on the y-axis. And I did the same thing up here and as well as this pocket. So that way I can actually do all my design work based on the center and easily be able to move from there to whichever pocket that I want to be able to engrave in. After running the first test, it looks like it's just a little bit light. So I'm going to increase the pressure and I'm going to run this again. So this is the second pass with an increase in the pressure, and it's looking a lot better. And the nice thing about it is, with this pocket, I didn't need to adjust anything other than the pressure, and it's engraving exactly over the first impression. Here's a look at the results. The top line is just the outline of the letters, and that's the one that I did twice. The bottom one is with the fill, and I think both look fantastic. For the next test, I just slid the machine over to my center point of this pocket and ran the same test with the fill. And this looks amazing. Now again, this was very, very thin material, but it is engraving very crisp, very sharp. I'm extremely happy with the way this looks. You can see close up the real advantage of having a drag bit. If you were trying to do this with the spindle on and a V-bit, this would be an absolute disaster. But because the drag bit actually has that spring in there, it can actually move down, and with the flex that's in this very thin metal, it still creates an absolute perfect engraving with this test with the fill feature on. It's time to start the Army logo on the dog tag, and you can actually see a little movement. So I paused it, taped it down, and then hit resume, and it continued working on the star. And the look of this is absolutely beautiful, doing the fill for the star. Now I did off camera change the software, and I wanted to be able to see the outline feature as well as the fill feature on an engraving this small. So the word veteran, the word U.S. Army is actually going to be with the outline And of course, I'm drawing the lines around the entire logo with just an outline. And I think you're going to be very impressed with the results. Now keep in mind, this was a lot of detail in this logo, and it's being engraved on a very, very small dog tag. I'm very impressed with how much detail that you can get with the drag bit. It is absolutely amazing to be able to do a logo with this much detail, and to be able to have this type of a look is absolutely remarkable. And the other thing that's nice about it, it takes very little time to be able to do a project such as this. So if I wanted to be able to mass produce these, well, it could easily be set up to be able to do this in large quantities and not take up a lot of time. The other very interesting thing working with the drag bits is the settings are all the same. Once I had that pressure or that depth set, then all of these work exactly the same. Whether I'm working on the anodized aluminum or if I'm working on the brass, it all worked the same using that same pressure. And when the job is done, it comes right back to the center. I want to give a close-up look now so that you can see what this dog tag looks like with the outline of the letters as well as the fill for the star. And I think you'll agree that this looks absolutely gorgeous. And to be able to look at this with the larger print, I think you can again see that the detail is just absolutely amazing. As far as the brass, I had showed this earlier, but the brass one also looked extremely good. So at this point, I'm extremely impressed using the drag bit. To be able to get results like this is absolutely amazing, whether the letters are this size or very, very small on that little dog tag with the Army logo. Now I'm going to be doing quite a few more different types of projects, and I'm going to show you exactly how I set it up. So I hope that you will give me a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe right down there below so that you'll be able to follow along with this series. I also want to give you a sneak peek at some future videos where I'm going to use this pen tool to do some actual drawings using the CNC machine. And in essence, you can actually create your own auto pen if you have the CNC machine in your home. So this is going to be a fun series also that I'll be doing after I complete the series on the drag bit. So I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next video, and you already know what that one is. So for now, bye-bye everyone. See you real soon.